All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Got an awesome one for you today. So there are certain conservative commentators who are convinced that, actually, Biden's hard to beat. Huh. So, interesting take. We'll dive into that. We also have Fox News realizing that, at least on certain issues, Republicans are screwed. They're screwed. We have Ron DeSantis getting weirdly fundamentalist and religious. And then later on in the show, Donald Trump may have committed a cardinal sin for a general election. I mean, he commits them all the time, but this one is one he hadn't done previously, which is go a wee bit too far on the issue of abortion. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into it. You guys know the deal with the shameless plug. Support the show on Patreon. Support Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now we're trying to get to 2 million subs. And remember, you could always watch the full or listen to the full audio version of the show if you shoot on over to Spotify. We drop the full shows over there every day. All right, so here we go. Charlie Kirk went on Fox News, and they're talking about Biden and Kamala, and he makes an interesting point. We'll call it an interesting point and react to it here.
Now, Charlie, we covered a piece of this last night on The Angle, but now NBC is reporting that a part of the strategy to get Biden reelected, West Wing advisors in recent months have developed a plan to better promote the work of Vice President Kamala Harris in Republican efforts to turn her into a liability. Charlie, this is real. They think that selling Kamala as a success is going to redound to Biden's benefit. Do you see that, given her panoply of great experiences?
No, I think one of the reasons why Joe Biden isn't tough to beat is because he's tough to hate. I mean, he almost feels...
That is quite an admission for a conservative commentator. The reason why Joe Biden is tough to beat is because Joe Biden is tough to hate. I will say this. It certainly is the case that one of the main issues Republicans like to lean into is wokeness bad, bro. Cancel culture bad, bro. So much wokeness, bro. That's like one of their main things. And I mean, they've tried to make the argument like Joe Biden, he's so woke, and it just falls flat. Why? Because this is a guy, you're lucky if he doesn't say a racial slur at some point in a speech he gives. It could be a speech on anything, transportation, taxes, and you're lucky he doesn't say like Chinaman or something during it. He had that famous moment where he was like, I can't walk into a 7-Eleven without an Indian guy being behind the counter. He says stuff like that on a regular. Remember when he called that guy Fats and challenged him to a push-up contest? The idea that Joe Biden is out there like policing people's speech, it's just like you can't call him woke. He's like a old, barely there white dude who, he does like old school politics, like platitude. It's just, that does come across as super inoffensive to a large swath of the country. His biggest issue now, of course, is his cognitive decline and the fact he doesn't really have a vision to run on. It's just like, I'm still not Trump. Okay, wow. But that's an interesting admission there from Charlie Kirk, that he thinks, hey, Biden's tough to beat. To this point, he kind of has been. The Democrats did good in the midterms. How much you attribute that to Biden is sort of a up in the air. It's a debatable question, right? But they did well in the midterm, and Biden won in 2020 by 7 million votes. So this might be the first time I've heard a conservative commentator make that point.
No, I think one of the reasons why Joe Biden isn't tough to beat is because he's tough to hate. I mean, he almost feels sorry for him. He's a candidate of sympathy. Kamala Harris is different. It is...
Kamala. I mean, I used to say Kamala because I was used to that wrestler from back in the day in like the 1990s. But then I learned it was Kamala, and I've said it Kamala ever since. He says Kamala. Is he doing that on purpose? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you guys.
Very easy to build a movement against. Harris is different. It is very easy to build a movement against someone who is just so arrogant and smug and cackly and self-righteous and has failed so miserably on policy. And so Joe Biden, again, is someone that's like, oh, he's just means well, and it's hard to build a big movement against him if they think all of a sudden.
It's hard to build a big movement against him. They've tried. He's saying it's hard to build a movement against him. They had an easier time with Barack Obama. I wonder why that is. That's a tough one, man. Let me think about that.
It's hard to build a big movement against him. If they think all of a sudden there's accomplishments for Kamala Harris, I'm not sure what that is. It does probably reveal that there's an identity politics issue, that they're going to try to excite the reliable voters they have, which are female black voters in Georgia in particular and Wisconsin.
I mean, there's probably an element of that that's true, but also I think they realize Biden is mentally doing even worse than he was previously. Guys, there was an article that came out the other day that's like, it's hard to get a meeting with him before, they said either before 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock a.m., and they said it's hard to get a meeting with him after 4 p.m. In other words, they try to keep him away in the early mornings and from like the late afternoon and on. That's, man, if you're president of the United States and even at like 7 o'clock at night, you're not handling some business or you can't talk to other people, that's a wee bit of an issue there, if you ask me. So that's, I think that's further evidence. They're trying to do like a weekend at Bernie's type thing, you know? And in 2020, Biden got lucky politically because he was able to literally run a campaign from his basement because it was COVID, heart of COVID, can't really go out and do too much stuff. And now, I mean, COVID's still out there, but it's a little different because, you know, everybody we're past any even state lockdowns or things of that nature. And so people are out there, they're out and about. And so, you know, he's going to have to be out on the campaign trail to one extent or another. And I think they're panicking over that, which is why they're like, oh yeah, we'll utilize Kamala. Believe me, if they could get away with not using her, they would do that. Why? Because she's not a good politician. I mean, she gives us, every time she talks, she gives us a different kind of gaffe. It's a gaffe where she talks for 2 minutes and 45 seconds and says absolutely nothing. So they would stay away from her if they could, but they feel like they can't. And that probably says a lot about Biden.
And maybe this is a strategy to do that, but we should take advantage of this and say, hey, there might be something that we can actually win in these inner cities going into 2024.
Okay, by the way, that's Republican code word for, hey, maybe we could win black people in 2024. Look, to be fair to him, he might mean maybe we can win a higher percentage than we previously won. And if that's his argument, that's different. That's a lot less dumb of an argument. But the idea, like, what, you could think you can win over 50%? Oh, no, that's, I mean, Jesus, probably 95% of the vote went to the Democrat, or 92, something like that. So a victory for them would be if only 90% of the vote goes to Democrats. But anyway, hilarious. Quite an admission, though. They think Biden's hard to beat. I will say this, though. He is probably, he's a much weaker candidate than he was last time. And I genuinely think Marianne Williamson is a stronger general election candidate because she's totally there cognitively. She's very charismatic and she has a vision. And so that's, if she just gets a fair shake from the media in the primary, and if she just gets more public exposure, then we're really off to the races. But it really is rolling the dice with Republican victories to have Biden be the standard bearer. You know, I still think it's fair to say Kamala would fare worse. I still think it's fair to say Mayor Pete would fare worse, although that's debatable now, right? But I think Marianne's a much stronger general election candidate. And honestly, Bernie's Achilles heel in 2020 was, you know, people didn't think he was as electable. They didn't think he was, they thought Biden was the most electable, which is why we should support him. This is what Democratic voters thought. We need to flip that conventional wisdom because at this point it's just not true anymore. I think Marianne is a much more electable general election candidate. And, I mean, Jesus, if it's Biden versus anybody but Trump, then the Democrats are in real trouble. They really are. I think even like Nikki Haley, I think even she could beat Joe Biden. I think the only one who still might lose to Biden is Trump. But everybody else is like, oh boy, buckle up. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.